Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology podcast. Thomas Miller along with Robert Glasscock. You know, there is an aspect that I think makes a big impact or imprint in our lives. And I happen to have it. Robert happens to have it. But we're not going to talk about ourselves because we all have these two planets. What I'm talking about is the Sun and Neptune. Neptune right now, for the next several years, is in its own sign of Pisces. It's been in there since about 10 years ago and won't leave until 2025, 2026. So we're still with this quite a bit. Therefore, the Neptunian influence is high in our lives. Some of us were born with Neptune in some kind of aspect to another key planet in our lives. Maybe our sun, maybe it's your moon, maybe it's some other planet. We were going to just explore a couple of things together here in this episode about Neptune, kind of springboarding it off of what we both have and we understand from our own lives, and that is Neptune conjunct or very close to the sun. I have it on the same degree as the sun. Robert has it 4 degrees off of his sun. But it does open up several characteristics or attributes that somebody with this kind of aspect or influence in their chart is going to deal with through their life. So, Robert, why don't you walk us through wherever you'd like to start on some of these attributes, especially for those who have a strong connection with Neptune?
Fine with me, but I want to start with pointing out that any aspect to the sun from another planet is a direct message to you that says you are going to have to integrate this planet and its archetype and everything that it means into your life. If it's by conjunction with your sun, then you're going to have to live it out in yourself. And that means living out the Neptune archetype in all of its glory and muck. To whatever degree, because different people are different. Some people will be very frightened of Neptune's, say, darker side or the weaker side of it. So the sun is telling you this is the target you're aiming to be. It's a circle with a dot in the center. So the message of the sun is aim here. So people say, I'm born a Libra, I'm born a Scorpio. Well, yes, you are. But in fact, you're born to become a Scorpio. That's what you're aiming to be. You're aiming to be your sun sign all of your life. So any aspect made by another planet to that sun will have to be incorporated into your life, either consciously or unconsciously. I have Saturn square my sun Neptune, for example. So the Saturn archetype is in a square aspect to my sun and Neptune. That means I'm going to have to learn to integrate Saturn in my 7th house through conflict. Now, let's go back just to the Sun conjunct Neptune, for example. So people born with that aspect at birth are meant to live out Neptune's archetype in this life. What is Neptune's archetype? It's pretty simple on one level. People with a strong Neptune, especially the Sun conjuncted, can either go into any of the arts, any of them, music, painting, dance, photography, writing, acting, theater, any of those. Or they can go into any kind of religious or spiritual career. And that can be many. Minister, New Age ministry, channeling, mediumship, psychism. Astrology is also ruled by Neptune. So many areas of spiritual or religious or metaphysical kinds of work and interests and careers. Or they can go into any of the healing arts, from a doctor to a surgeon to a nurse to an orderly. Even an insurance agent is peripherally connected with healthcare and so on. Even with the other connotation of Neptune and healing, spiritual healing, unconventional healing, sound therapy, aromatherapy, massage therapy, transpersonal psychology. So those are some broad areas: the arts, religion, spirituality, healing for Neptune. And people with the Sun conjunct Neptune will tend to find themselves interested in those sorts of areas at some points in their lives. You're in broadcasting, for example, which is related to this. But that's the archetype of Neptune on the positive side, is this spiritual awareness. And that is what, in fact, everybody with any Neptune aspect, really, but especially those with this conjunction, that's what they're seeking, is spiritual awareness, spiritual union. And that is found through, frankly, ultimately, discovering and staying with your connection with the all that is, or God, for lack of a better word. So people born with Sun conjunct Neptune, religion and spirituality will be central areas of their lives. Usually it's not so much talked about, but it's there. And it's learning in this life to distinguish between spirituality and religion. Religion is a codified kind of tribal expression of what God is. But it varies from tribe to tribe and nation to nation, all of which are claiming to be the truth. Well, the direct connection that we all are born with to God, that's what these people are seeking in life, Sun conjunct Neptune. Now, one of the ways, for example, I have a chart, I don't want to talk about myself too much, but when that Sun conjunct Neptune is frustrated by, say, a square from another planet, then out of the frustration, the sense of trying to belong, trying to feel like you're a part of the rest of the human race in the world, some people will turn to recreational drugs, because the first thing that those do is to lower inhibitions, lower blockages between you and other people. So there are a lot of people who can't have fun without a drink or two. So they're using alcohol, which is also Neptune based, to try and get closer to people, to be intimate even with them. They're people who've never had sex in their lives without being drunk. So it's an attempt to belong on a spiritual level, and it's at the heart of all addictions, frankly, because they don't feel like they belong. They feel misunderstood. They feel alone, maybe lonely. And they have to confront this spiritual connection, if they can, with God, a direct connection. Once they find that, they're home free, because you will never, ever, you can't be alone when you have that kind of connection. So that is what they're seeking all of their lives. When they're younger, they tend to try and find that ideal in love and marriage and a family and all the things that they're told, will bring happiness, and that's what you're supposed to do. But they have visions that maybe don't involve all that, and certainly Sun conjunct Neptune, one of the negative sides of it is getting lost in imaginations and never actually actualizing anything. But the great power of Neptune is it's visionary, because it does dream and it does imagine. And those things, dreams and imagination, are actually rehearsals for probable realities. Nightmares or worries or anxieties are negative self-protective devices to protect. You worry about something, you envision it, and you think, oh God, I don't want that to happen. So now you've set your subconscious up to make sure that doesn't happen. Some people start obsessing with those fears and they cling to them. Oh, I'm going to fail. Oh, I'm not going to get the job. Oh, she's going to leave me. And as they obsess on the worries, they're actually adding emotional power to the very things they'd say they don't want. So when the breakup happens or the bad thing happens, there's fate against them. No, it isn't. It's your belief systems about fate, about your fate. So Neptune helps penetrate these kinds of depth psychology and depth spiritual areas that help you clarify yourself and refine yourself. You get rid of the clutter and the wastes of time that you refine your life gradually as you go. Things do get better. So I don't know if that's a kind of gateway into what that Neptune conjunction means, but it can be a wonderful, wonderful aspect. It's been my whole life.
How do people wake up to it?
Different ways, Thomas. With me, it was Aquarius. It was astrology, which found me. In my story, the only thing I actually did was one night I took myself into a bookstore, Pickwick Books, Hollywood Boulevard, to the astrology section. I was just about to be 21, and I'm standing there thinking, gee, maybe one of these old books will tell me I'm going to be rich and famous. That's what I wanted at 20, is to be a movie star. Guess what? I didn't get it. But there I was. And I did position myself there, but totally unconsciously. And that's when this stranger came over to me and said, hey, the book you want isn't here. It's not in print. By the way, you're an astrologer, and yada, yada, yada. That whole thing started. So that's how I got into this, because through astrology, then into metaphysics right away, really, and into philosophy and into psychology. And thankfully, I was in an environment in Los Angeles where I had access to professionals in all those categories. UCLA alone had 12 different libraries, so I was able to learn a great deal that all tied into astrology, which of course has been central in my life for ultimately leading me to the experience of what that direct connection is with the all that is, with God or higher self or a higher consciousness. And that's really the purpose of Neptune. And indeed, everybody knows I came from an alcoholic background. There's the other side of Neptune. And that side of it, the Sun conjunct Neptune, can be irresponsible. And that's usually one of the keys underlying addictions. People will not be responsible for themselves, their behavior, their choices. And then they feel bad when things don't work out, or they hurt people that they didn't intend to hurt. And then they may drink or do drugs to lower the pain. And then that begins to physiologically addict them to the alcohol. And now they got a real problem. But what they're doing is trying to escape, which is the big no-no with Neptune, because people like us can easily escape into dreams and imaginations and ruminations and just avoid, doing the laundry. So it's a wonderful, wonderful planet. As long as you're at least trying to be aware of it, it's the planet that will then lead you to your higher self, sometimes to a psychic guide, certainly to the experience very directly and continuously of God, of the all that is, everything that you see right now, this second around you. Yes.
Yeah, I love the archetypes, and I have experienced, as you, both sides of them. Thank you for this great description. And we will obviously continue to unpack various elements of the chart. This was one that we just kind of thought, this is something that we both have a lot of strong ties to and thought we could communicate it well. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to talk to Robert, you could see how you could drill down on those specific points in your chart, and his contact information for readings is in the show notes. So is everything else that we're doing around here, always will be. We'll keep them up to date. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you back next time on Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast with Robert Glasscock.